Mason had always been proud of the stable life he had built with his wife, Amelia. They had been married for 4 years, a marriage based on shared dreams and the promise of a bright future. Their life was busy but fulfilling. Mason worked as an IT consultant, and Amelia was climbing the corporate ladder in marketing. They were partners in every sense, working hard to secure a future for the children they hoped to have one day. But recently, something about Amelia had started to feel off. It began subtly, almost without notice. She started spending more time on her phone, typing quickly, her eyes focused on the screen. When Mason asked who she was texting, Amelia would laugh it off, saying it was work-related. Her explanation seemed reasonable. After all, she was up for a big promotion. The long hours and constant communication with colleagues were just part of the process, she assured him. Still, Mason couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It wasn't just a phone. Amelia was also staying late at the office more often, coming home hours after Mason. He wanted to trust her, but there were little signs that bothered him, like the way she would dismiss his concerns with a practiced calmness or the distant look she gave him when he asked about her day. The breaking point came one Thursday evening. Amelia walked through the front door, her cheeks flushed and her hair disheveled, a stark contrast to her usual neat appearance. Mason noticed it right away. The faint but distinct scent of cologne, a scent he didn't recognize. "Amelia, what's that smell?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. She froze for a moment, her eyes darting to the floor. Then she laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh, that? I stopped at a perfume store after work. I was picking out a new scent for you. Surprise." Mason's gut twisted. Her explanation was rehearsed, delivered with the practiced precision of someone who had prepared it. But the sharpness in her tone suggested a defensive edge. He didn't want to press her further, but the unease lingered. "Why didn't you mention it earlier?" he asked gently. Amelia's expression hardened. "Are you accusing me of something? I've been working overtime to help us. And now you're giving me grief because I wanted to do something nice for you." Her voice grew louder, the tension in the room thickening. Mason didn't want to argue, so he decided to drop the subject. But the damage was done. Later that night, as Amelia showered, Mason sat on the edge of their bed, staring at the blank TV screen. Her answer may have sounded clever, but it didn't feel like the truth. The scent lingered in his mind, like a shadow. Something didn't add up. The next morning, Mason sat at the kitchen table, staring at his untouched plate of scrambled eggs and toast. Amelia sat across from him, scrolling through her phone, coffee in hand. The sunlight streamed through the window, but the atmosphere felt anything but peaceful. The tension from the night before now hung heavily in the air. Mason couldn't ignore it any longer. He put down his fork, took a deep breath, and spoke. "Amelia," he began, his tone steady but gentle, "can we talk for a minute?" She looked up from her phone, startled. "Sure, what's up?" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Is everything okay with us? I mean, with our relationship?" Her expression flickered just for a moment, but it was enough for Mason to notice. "Of course everything's fine," she said quickly, her voice light. But Mason wasn't convinced. "Amelia," he pressed, leaning forward slightly, "if there's something you're not happy with, or if I've done something to make you feel distant, I want to know. And if there's someone else, or if this marriage has become a burden to you, then maybe we should talk about it openly." Her laugh came too quickly, sharp and nervous. "Oh, Mason, don't be ridiculous." "Is it ridiculous?" he asked, his voice firmer now. "I'm just trying to understand. You've been distant lately." She cut him off, setting her coffee cup down with a clatter. "You know what's wrong, Mason. You—" He blinked, taken aback. "Me?" "Yeah," she snapped, her voice rising. "You're putting too much pressure on me and making me feel guilty. You probably don't like that I'm busy with work. But guess what? That's life. I have a lot on my plate, and I need personal space. Why can't you just accept that?" Mason's throat tightened. He wasn't expecting this level of deflection. "Amelia, I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I just want to know if there's something I can do to help. Help, she interrupted again, her tone dripping with frustration. You're not helping, Mason. You're smothering me with all these questions and suspicions. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Her words stung, and the finality in her tone felt like a wall slamming down between them. Mason tried a few more times, gently asking if there was anything he could do to make things easier for her. But each time, Amelia skillfully deflected with frustration and just enough logic to make him doubt himself. By the time breakfast was over, Mason felt more uncertain than ever. He watched as Amelia grabbed her bag and headed out the door. Her goodbye kiss felt forced, almost like an afterthought. Over the next few days, things only got worse. Amelia became more secretive, guarding her phone like a hawk. She'd take calls out of earshot, lock herself in the bedroom, or go outside to speak in hushed tones. Whenever Mason asked, she claimed it was work-related. She also seemed to go out of her way to avoid being alone with him, filling her schedule with errands and late nights at the office. When she was home, she was either too tired to talk or glued to her phone, scrolling endlessly. Mason felt like a stranger in his own marriage. His attempts to bridge the gap were met with thin smiles and vague reassurances. Finally, one evening, as he sat alone in the living room, the weight of it all pressing down on him, he couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, and stared into the darkness outside. Enough was enough. If Amelia wasn't going to be honest with him, he'd have to find the truth himself. The opportunity came one quiet evening. Amelia was engrossed in one of her favorite TV dramas, lounging on the couch with her phone in hand, scrolling absent-mindedly. Mason sat nearby, pretending to be absorbed in a book, but his eyes occasionally flicked toward her. He was waiting for the moment when she would leave her phone unattended. It didn't take long. "I'll be right back," Amelia said, setting her phone on the coffee table as she got up to go to the bathroom. Mason's heart raced as he glanced at the device. He had been watching her closely for days, memorizing the way she quickly tapped her passcode. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, he grabbed the phone and entered the code. The screen unlocked, and Mason began navigating through her apps with practiced ease. He checked her messages first, but there was nothing, no texts, no notifications. His brows furrowed as he opened her email app, then her social media accounts. Again, nothing. It was as if Amelia didn't use her phone for anything beyond its basic functions. Then it hit him. She was deleting everything. Mason sat back, stunned. Amelia wasn't just being secretive. She was going to great lengths to cover her tracks. There weren't even work emails or messages, which she had previously claimed were the reason for her constant texting. Hearing the bathroom door creak open, Mason quickly placed the phone back on the table and resumed his spot on the couch. His heart pounded in his chest as Amelia returned, seemingly unaware of his brief intrusion. The next day at work, Mason decided he needed expert advice. Jack, a junior technician on his team, was known for his skill in digital forensics. Mason approached him during their lunch break, framing the situation as a hypothetical. "Jack, let's say someone deletes everything off their phone, texts, emails, everything. Is it possible to recover that data?" Mason asked casually. Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Depends on the phone and how thorough they are, but yeah, it's possible. With the right equipment, you can recover data, even if it's deleted. But why recover it when you can capture it before it's gone?" Mason tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "You can set up a virtual copy of the phone," Jack explained. "Basically, it mirrors a device. Every message, email, or notification gets synced in real time. Even if the person deletes something, it's already backed up on the virtual copy." Mason leaned in, lowering his voice. "And you could set this up? Hypothetically, of course." Jack smirked. "Hypothetically, sure. But you'd need access to the phone for a few minutes to install the necessary software." Will hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, something like that." Jack leaned back, considering. "Okay, here's what we do. If you can distract them long enough, I can connect their phone to my tablet and set up a virtual copy. It'll only take a few minutes. A flicker of hope stirred inside Will. Jack, I owe you big time for this. That evening, Will invited Jack over under the guise of needing help with a work project. When Amelia came home, Will greeted her at the door with a casual smile. Hey, honey, this is Jack, my colleague. We thought we'd brainstorm some project ideas outside of work for a bit. Hope you don't mind. Amelia nodded politely. Of course not, she said, slipping off her shoes. I'll be in the kitchen. Long day, and I could use a glass of wine. Will exchanged a quick glance with Jack as she disappeared into the kitchen. Phase 1 was complete. Where's her purse? Jack whispered. Will gestured toward the hallway table. There, but she'll be back any second. How do we do this without her noticing? Jack smirked. Be creative. He leaned in. Remember, keep her busy for at least 5 or 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Will whispered back, incredulous. Jack shrugged with a mischievous grin. Genius takes time. Will quietly slipped into the hallway and grabbed her purse, opening it as silently as he could. Inside, he found her phone nestled among a few things. He passed it to Jack, who was waiting just around the corner. Go, go, Will whispered urgently. Jack grinned, giving Will a thumbs up before heading into the room like a covert operative. Meanwhile, Amelia opened the fridge, retrieving the wine bottle. Will sidled into the kitchen with a smile, trying to act casual. You know, I've been thinking about something lately. Amelia raised an eyebrow, pouring herself a glass of wine. What's that? I should really organize that drawer, Will said, gesturing vaguely toward a cluttered drawer that neither of them had touched in years. You know, the one with the takeout menus and old batteries? I think there's even a half-eaten candy bar in there. Amelia looked at him, puzzled. That's what's on your mind right now. Absolutely, Will nodded emphatically. Organization is key. You've inspired me with how neat you always keep your purse. I thought I'd start there. My purse. Amelia set down her wine glass. I left my phone in there. I need to check something. Will's heart skipped a beat. Don't worry about it. You deserve a break. What could be so urgent? Work stuff? Forget it for a while. Relax. Ignoring him, Amelia turned toward the hall. Will, panicked, grabbed the wine bottle and fumbled dramatically. Whoa, hold on, he exclaimed, pretending to lose his grip. Amelia turned just in time to see him catch the bottle at the last second, a little wine spilling onto the counter. Careful, she said, hurrying to grab a towel. Yeah, my bad, Will said sheepishly, wiping at the spill. See, this is why I'm not allowed to handle fine beverages. Hey, can you teach me that thing you do? You know, where you swirl the wine to let it breathe. It's so fancy. Amelia stared at him, exasperated. Will, it's not that hard. Show me, please. He handed her the wine glass, blocking her path to the hall. With a sigh, Amelia demonstrated the swirling motion. Happy? She asked. Very. Will grinned. Now, can you do that thing where you smell it and say something poetic? Like, hints of oak and despair? Amelia laughed despite herself. You're ridiculous. Meanwhile, in the spare room, Jack worked furiously. He had connected Amelia's phone to his tablet and was watching the progress bar inch forward as the virtual copy began transferring. Come on, Jack muttered under his breath. In the kitchen, Will kept the conversation light, cracking jokes. Amelia seemed to grow more annoyed. Okay, enough with the theatrics, she said, brushing past him toward the hall. Panic surged through Will. Wait, he called out, lunging forward and accidentally bumping into her. Some wine splashed onto her sleeve. Oh no, I'm so sorry, he said, grabbing a napkin and dabbing at her arm. I'm such a klutz today. Here, let me fix it. Just stop, she snapped, retreating to the bathroom to clean up. In the spare room, Jack wiped his brow as the progress bar finally reached 100%. He disconnected the phone and hurried to return it to Will. When Amelia emerged from the bathroom in a clean sweatshirt, looking irritated, Will quickly slipped her phone back into her purse. "Feeling better?" he asked with an innocent smile. "Better than you, apparently," she replied, shaking her head. "You're acting so weird tonight." "Weird?" Will laughed nervously. "Nah, just keeping things interesting." Amelia rolled her eyes and reached for her purse. Will's pulse quickened. Before she could grab her phone, he blurted out, "Hey, how about we order Thai food? I'm starving. And maybe that's why I'm acting a little off. You know, low blood sugar turns me into a total weirdo." He grinned, trying to diffuse her suspicion with humor. Amelia paused, looking up. "Thai food, huh?" "Yep. Pad Thai, green curry, those little spring rolls, the works." Will rattled off, edging closer to her. "Let's order for 3. Jack's still here, after all." Just then, Jack reappeared from the spare room, holding his tablet with a businesslike expression. "Will," Jack said, his tone professional, "I've jotted down some ideas for the project. I think these could work well." Will nodded with exaggerated seriousness, as if deeply contemplating Jack's ideas. Looks solid." He glanced at the blank screen before handing the tablet back. "Should I order food for 3 then?" Amelia raised an eyebrow. "Shouldn't Jack get going?" "Oh, I really should get going," Jack said, politely shaking his head. "I wouldn't want to intrude." "Nonsense." Will nudged Jack with a playful grin. 4-3. "You're staying." Amelia shrugged. "All right, dinner for 3 it is." An hour later, the 3 of them sat around the dining table, enjoying their Thai feast. Will worked hard to keep the conversation light, cracking jokes about their project while Jack played along with ease. "So, Jack," Amelia said, spearing a piece of chicken with her fork, "what kind of work do you usually do with Will?" "Mostly brainstorming and troubleshooting," Jack replied, smiling. "And sometimes being roped into awkward dinner parties." Will laughed. "I'm just trying to expand your horizons, Jack. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll work in hospitality." The table erupted in laughter, and for a while, the tension in the room eased. A couple of hours later, Jack stood at the door, pulling on his jacket. "Thanks for the food," he said, smiling at Amelia. "Good luck with your drawer project." Will. "Thanks for the help," Will replied, clapping Jack on the shoulder as he left. Will let out a deep breath. The evening had been chaotic, but it ended on a high note. Jack's covert operation had been a success. Now, with the virtual copy Jack had set up, Will had one goal: to uncover what Amelia had been hiding for a month. As he sifted through the data Jack had transferred to his tablet, Will saw messages, call logs, and photos slowly painting a disturbing picture. Amelia wasn't just distant. She was building a secret life with another man. The exchanges with Bruce, a colleague from another department, were unmistakably intimate. Flirting, inside jokes, late-night texts, it all told the same story. When Will finally decided to confront her, he knew it had to be impactful. He couldn't just let this slide. For a month, he had endured the slow drip of revelations from Amelia's phone. Each message, each call log cut deeper. The truth was undeniable. Bruce, a former client, had been in frequent contact with Amelia. Their exchanges were personal, intimate, and filled with subtle undertones. Bruce was older, charismatic, and clearly enamored with Amelia. One evening, Will approached Amelia as she worked on her laptop at the dining table. "Hey," he began casually, keeping his tone light. "I was thinking we should have a date night. Maybe try that Italian place you love. How about Thursday?" Amelia looked up, hesitation flickering in her eyes. "Thursday? I'd love to, but I have a business meeting that evening. It's with an old client. Maybe another time." Will smiled faintly, his heart heavy but his resolve firm. "Sure, another time." What Amelia didn't know was that Will already knew about her plans. When Thursday came, he arrived at the restaurant ahead of time, choosing a discreet table near the back where he could see the entrance. Amelia arrived soon after, stunning in a sleek black dress. Will watched as she scanned the room, clearly looking for someone. When a hostess approached, Amelia gave Bruce's name, and they were escorted to a table by the window. Will allowed her to Will stood in the restaurant, feeling the weight of the moment pressing on him. His mind raced, but his expression remained calm. Amelia had been talking for what seemed like hours, spinning lies, trying to keep him in the dark about what she'd been doing. But he wasn't fooled. He knew. I'm waiting for Bruce. He's my old client. And this meeting might look informal, but maybe I can convince him to use the company's services, she said, her tone all business, though her eyes flickered with something else. Will didn't flinch. This is a business meeting, Mason. When Bruce gets here, he'll confirm everything. Will didn't even bother to respond to the way she'd said his name. Bruce isn't coming. Amelia blinked, her voice suddenly tight. What are you talking about? I don't understand. This is surreal. He leaned forward, his eyes cold as ice. No, Amelia. What's surreal is watching you lie to my face for the first time. Her face faltered, just for a second. It was all Will needed to see. The shift in her demeanor, the crack in her mask. He had been ready for this. Her lies, her stories, the way she tried to twist everything. But he had seen it all. He could already feel the weight of the truth coming down on her. Amelia looked away, trying to gather herself. She leaned forward, voice rising. You're talking nonsense, Mason. Bruce will be here soon, and he'll prove me right. Will shook his head slowly, his expression unreadable. No, Bruce isn't coming. Amelia let out a sharp, nervous laugh. What do you mean? How do you know? Will kept his tone steady, unshaken. Did you know that Bruce is married? He has 3 kids. He let that hang in the air, letting her stew in the realization. I just found out a little bit about him. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Amelia's face drained of color. What are you talking about? Why are you playing detective? You're the crazy one here, not me. Will didn't flinch. His calm was unbroken. Bruce isn't coming because he's at home, dealing with his wife. She found out about your affair. Amelia froze. Her eyes were wide now, her mouth opening, but no sound came out. She finally said, voice trembling. You're bluffing. The waiter chose that moment to return with Will's steak, placing the plate in front of him. Will thanked him with a nod, picking up his knife and fork, acting as though he wasn't in the middle of a storm. He sliced into the steak slowly, deliberately, savoring the moment. I'm not bluffing, he said, his tone low but firm. I know everything, and I made sure Bruce wouldn't interfere tonight. He has enough of his own problems to deal with. Amelia's eyes narrowed, and she grabbed her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed Bruce's number. She pressed it to her ear, waiting. Will watched her with a cool, detached gaze. The phone buzzed once. Then a robotic voice answered. The number you are trying to reach is currently disconnected. Please try again later. Will met her gaze, unwavering. Still think I'm bluffing? She dropped the phone onto the table, the screen now showing the disconnected message. Her expression was a mixture of disbelief and panic. Will could see her defenses crumbling, piece by piece. I know everything, he said again, his voice unwavering. And Bruce won't be here, because he's dealing with his wife. Your lies aren't working anymore, Amelia. Amelia opened her mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. The full weight of the situation was crashing down on her. Will wasn't messing with her. He was done. She slammed her fist onto the table in frustration, her voice rising. What do you want from me, Mason? I'm not telling you anything. This is all just a show, isn't it? Will sighed, unimpressed. You've been denying everything from the start, Amelia. I tried. I really did. A month ago, I offered to talk, to have an honest conversation. But you shut me down. You brushed me off like it was nothing. And now that I've caught you red-handed, you still won't face the truth. Her face flushed with anger, her voice spitting the words, I have nothing to explain. I'm not admitting to anything. You're the crazy one here. Will leaned back in his chair, his expression hardening. I see now. You'll deny it until the end. Fine. If you won't talk, then take this. He reached into his bag and pulled out a crisp envelope, sliding it toward her. Divorce papers, he said quietly, his voice filled with finality. Amelia's eyes locked onto the words on the envelope, and for the first time, she seemed truly shaken. Will didn't wait for her response. This is it, Amelia. My last move. I gave you a chance, but you made your choice. I'm done. He leaned back, his tone like steel. I'm going home now. Your things will be waiting for you on the street. Any complaints can go straight to my lawyer. Amelia stared at him, disbelief and rage battling on her face. You think you're the smartest person in the room? She spat. You're a scoundrel, a complete monster. Will met her gaze unflinching. No, Amelia. I'm just a man who's finally done being lied to. Without another word, she stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back with a loud scrape. She stormed out, the divorce papers still clutched tightly in her hand. Will didn't want any of this, but it had to be done. When Amelia arrived home, everything she thought she had was gone. Her keys didn't work. The door wouldn't open. Confused, she fumbled with them until she noticed a pile of her belongings on the front lawn. A note sat atop the pile, written in Will's neat handwriting. I told you the truth would catch up with you. Good luck. My lawyer will handle the rest. Tears welled in Amelia's eyes as she saw the locks had been changed, as the full weight of Will's words crashed into her. She had gambled it all, and lost. The court trial wasn't much better. Amelia's attempts to paint herself as a victim fell apart the moment the truth came out. Her affair with Bruce, the texts, the calls, and Bruce's own wife, who came forward with damning evidence, destroyed Amelia's case. In the end, the court ruled in Will's favor. He kept the house, the assets, and walked away with a favorable settlement. Amelia lost everything, her job, her reputation, and most importantly, her dignity. As Will left the courthouse, he felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. This wasn't how he wanted things to end, but it was the only choice left. If Amelia had just been honest, if she'd owned up to her actions, maybe things could have ended differently. But Amelia's lies had left no room for reconciliation. In the end, truth had prevailed, and Amelia had paid the price. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe. I wish you a great mood and good luck.